Hello and welcome back to the Karma Stories podcast. I'm Rob and I hope you are having a wonderful day today. Today I have two stories for you from the Malicious Compliance subreddit. The Karma Stories podcast is published to all major podcasting platforms, and you can also read along on YouTube under our @Karma Stories podcast handle. If you have a story you'd like to submit to the podcast, you can do so by email at karmastoriespod@gmail.com. Before we start today, I just want to quickly apologize for the delay in videos. I know it's been about a week since we've posted, but late last week, the health of our little kitty Smokey started declining, and he passed on around noon on Saturday. Trying to find the motivation to record has been incredibly difficult. I keep having to remind myself that he was 18 and a half years old, and that's a hugely long life for a cat, and he was loved the whole time and gave us unconditional love the whole time as well. Rest in peace, my little buddy Smokey. We miss you so much. Alright, on to today's stories. Let's jump right in. This story comes to us from ShellLoser42. Just let the kids sort it out themselves. Okay then. Backstory. I live in a town in the Netherlands with a university, and a few years ago, my girlfriend's cousin got accepted as an overseas student. My girlfriend is Japanese. Her family, father, mother, her sister, and herself moved to the Netherlands while she was younger. Her cousin still lived in Japan when she applied, got accepted, and is now living in a student room in the Netherlands. We don't really have dorms here like in the US, but the building she lives in is maintained by the university itself. Said cousin is doing quite well for herself, got good grades, and is well on her way to get her diploma. Partly because of this, the overseas family decided to have their vacation in the Netherlands this year, both for leisure and a bit of a family gathering. This story takes place during the family gathering. My girlfriend's parents and the cousin's parents, plus yet another family, had a meeting in a restaurant in my hometown. They had two little kids in tow, sisters. These look like 8 or 9 or so to me, but my girlfriend later told me that they are actually 11 and 12. But did look younger than they were. Probably also because of their school uniform. At least that's what it looked like to me. I don't really know. Anyway, the idea was to catch up with the family, and my girlfriend was asked if she would be willing to keep the two young kids busy for a few hours since she was the oldest of the lot. My girlfriend and me are in our 40s. Her studying cousin is around 25, and as said, the two kids are 11 and 12. My girlfriend didn't mind, but did ask me if I wanted to come along as well. Her cousin didn't mind. The three of us had met a few times before already, and well, it was all about keeping the young kids busy anyway. Oh, for the record, the two young kids basically only speak Japanese. They do understand bits of English and can even speak some, but it's mostly Japanese. My girlfriend's cousin speaks both Japanese and English, and has even learned quite a bit of the Dutch language as well. Seriously, for the few years she's been here, in my opinion, it's quite impressive. My girlfriend speaks Japanese, English, and Dutch, and as for me, Dutch, obviously, and English. But over the years, I also managed to pick up a decent bit of Japanese as well, and I can often, not always, understand the general gist of things, as long as it's not too quickly spoken or too complicated. So basically, it was all English and Japanese between us. A bully shows up. We took the kids for a walk through my hometown and they were quite interested, but when we went past a playground, that also quickly got their attention. So the three of us decided to go sit on a bench and let the kids have some fun. There were several activities like an air balloon castle, swings, and a sandbox for younger kids to play in, just plenty of things to do. The two wanted to go into the castle, which was fine with my girlfriend, as long as they made sure to only use the entrance and exit, which was located on our side, so that they wouldn't get lost and we could keep track of them. The three of us talked quite a bit, but also kept eyes on the castle. So around 15 minutes later, I spot the two again by accident near the exit with a little kid in between them. I have no idea, but I'd say she was around 8 or so. I can't really tell exactly what's going on, but I did see the kid point to the area of the sandbox, and that's where the three of them headed next. Before I can say anything to my girlfriend, a young lady walks up to us and asks, in Dutch, if we have seen a little girl passing by. This seems way too coincidental to me, so I ask, is she wearing a pink dress by any chance? The woman's face lights up as I tell her that she seems to be with my girlfriend's younger cousins, and I point to the sandbox. But when we look over, we now also see an older boy near the girls. I'm not good with guessing ages, let's just say that he was bigger than them, and he's clearly harassing them. The small girl is visibly crying, but also comforted by one of the two younger cousins, while the other is keeping the boy away from her. We all walk over to the sandbox just when the boy manages to shove one of the cousins out of his way, and he's clearly trying to bully the young girl in the pink dress, but now stopped by the other cousin. Which is when we arrive. The woman who is with us berates the boy and tells him to stop picking on young children, but the little brat clearly isn't very impressed. Next moment, his mother, so I assume, storms over yelling, and she has every appearance of a Karen, or a Toki as we tend to call them over here. A little argument ensues, mainly between the mother of the girl in the pink dress and our Karen. It goes back and forth, but it's apparent that according to his mother, the brat did nothing wrong by picking on a girl half his own size. And this fine example of a mother even has the audacity to blame the other mother for raising such a weak little C-word. And then the Karen says, "Kids will be kids, just let them sort out their own problems already." But she does take the boy with her as she walks away. The mother gets ready to grab her kid and leave, but in the meantime, the girl has completely calmed down and is actually having a great time with the two cousins. Unknown to anyone else yet at this time, my girlfriend decides to comply with the earlier suggestion. First, she asks the mother to reconsider leaving because the kids are having so much fun together. My girlfriend also comments how amazing kids are because they clearly don't speak the same language, yet they seem to understand each other just fine and are having a good time. The mother agrees, and my girlfriend now addresses both her cousins in Japanese, and it sounded very serious to me. Something about the tone, the way she talked, and also looked at both girls, even a bit sternly. They both nodded and clearly said, "Hi," aka, "Yes, ma'am." I think I even saw a small head bow, but I'm not too sure. Our little group goes to sit on a bench nearby, and for the next 5 minutes, nothing happens. We're just having some small talk. Then, the bully returns. The mother of the small girl wanted to stand up, but gets stopped by my girlfriend, who tells her that she has nothing to worry about, because the kid is completely safe. Just watch, trust me on this. The mother is visibly uneasy, but does remain seated. Which is when I noticed that the behavior and stance of the two cousins has completely changed. They seem much more confident and relaxed. The boy starts making a fuss while one of the cousins stands up, points to him, and yells something at him in Japanese, obviously. He once again tries to shove her out of his way, but this time she's faster. She steps aside, does something with her leg, and gives him a huge shove. Next moment, he's eating sand. No, literally. He gets up visibly angry while his face is covered in sand. This time, he becomes violent and actually tries to hit one of the cousins with his fists. Yeah, tries. She evades one attempt, then grabs his hand, spins it around, and the next moment, the boy finds his arm twisted behind his back, and he starts screaming. The other cousin now also stands up, pats the young girl on the head, makes another move, and once again, the boy gets shoved to the ground, this time by both cousins. Hard. When he looks up, the other cousin actually makes a moving gesture, as if she wants to kick him, but without actually moving her legs or anything. She's obviously just threatening him. My girlfriend pokes me with a huge grin on her face and tells me, "Surely that deserves a point for self-restraint, don't you think?" She's visibly loving every moment of this. Apparently, the boy isn't totally stupid and he runs off, while one cousin immediately turns to the young girl again, who is clearly still having a good time. "What the heck was that?" the mother asks. My girlfriend tells the mother that her cousins are taking the same self-defense classes as she and her sister once did, and that she had decided to pull ranks by telling her cousins that it was okay for them to actually defend themselves, as long as they didn't overdo it, of course. The mother wanted to know more about these classes, but unfortunately for her, my girlfriend had to tell her that the actual school was located all the way out in a suburb of Tokyo. so not something her daughter would be able to attend. Mummy returns with a BOA, a guard. We're chatting some more for the next 10 minutes, after which the bully's mother storms over to us with a BOA in tow. BOA is basically a deputy but without the proper training nor having any weapons. Generally speaking, most of them usually handle ticketing people. He tells us that he has gotten a complaint from the woman about people beating up her kid, to which the mother of the young girl immediately snaps, "Whatever happened with letting the kids sort out their own problems?" Now the funny thing is, apparently the whole spectacle didn't really go unnoticed, and before we could say or do anything, someone else had stormed over as well. "I saw the whole thing, officer," an older woman said. Her brat, pointing at the Karen, was harassing and beating the kid in the pink dress when those two awesome kids stepped in and protected her. Meanwhile, another man had walked over. "Officer, that brat got everything he deserved. He started it. The only thing that happened was that those girls defended themselves from him." The officer listened to everyone's statements and ended up deciding to ticket the mother of the brat. I assume for disturbing the peace, but I don't know any details because at this time, we decided to leave and we went our separate ways. Aftermath. During our walk back to the hotel and restaurant, the cousins told us the whole story, and I actually learned something new as well. While they were in the castle, they saw the boy harassing the young girl in the pink dress, and immediately decided that this wasn't right, also because he was almost twice their size. He actually pulled on her hair while she was already crying, which made the cousins plain out angry. But the only thing they did was get the boy away from the girl. One cousin distracted the boy by blocking him from grabbing the girl's hair again, and she also started taunting him, while the other comforted the young girl and led her to the exit. But the one we agreed on. So the girl's mother never saw her leave and got worried. The other cousin managed to lose the boy in the crowd, at first anyway, and she joined her sister near the exit. So I asked my girlfriend why they didn't do all that stuff right away, to which she told me that they weren't allowed to. The first rule of self-defense is apparently always leave if you can, and her cousins are at a level where the use of these techniques outside their school is strictly prohibited, unless there's an actual threat of course, or if they've been given direct permission by an elder of the same school. A rule which my girlfriend was stretching a little bit, but she told me that she would write up the whole altercation so that the cousins could take her letter back with them. She was actually not kidding when she talked about points for self-restraint, because that would actually be her advice in the letter. But yeah, typical hypocrite behavior, let the kids sort it out, until it suddenly doesn't go your way, eh? Thanks for reading. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, there's one from a user called RL Friday Mang. It says, "While violent stories rarely pop up here, this is a result where everyone learned and no one was seriously hurt. The boy was embarrassed, but learned that girls can defend themselves and that there are consequences for their behavior, which clearly the mother isn't teaching. The cousins got to learn what standing up for justice is like, and that restraint in class is hard, but doing it in real life is exemplary. And finally, the young girl now has heroes to look up to, and I would not be surprised if she finds herself wearing a martial artist robe soon either. This isn't the normal stuff I read on here, but it is heartwarming. I always teach my kids that defending yourself should only be done when necessary. You never initiate a fight, but if someone else does, you make sure you handle it. Don't overestimate your own strength, because there's always someone out there who could be stronger or more aggressive. Avoid the confrontation when possible, and if you must act, do it swiftly and remove yourself from the situation. The biggest things we should teach them are avoidance and de-escalation, but if that doesn't work, make sure they can handle themselves as well." This story comes to us from 68 Cadillac. "It doesn't look like you have enough to do. Got my first career job in a local government, keeping tabs on its real estate and the legal documents relating to said real estate. I'm wet behind the ears. My first 40-hour per week career job. This was a time when multitasking was a huge buzzword in business, and it seemed like every single job I applied for required someone with good multitasking skills. I thought it was BS. I worked best when only working on one task at a time, and managing my workload via daily time allotment schedules. That is, I'd schedule my work in 15-minute lumps when I got in the morning and work on those tasks. That way, I never missed a deadline or had a project fall between the cracks. For example, some tasks got slotted 2 hours, some whole days, some just 15 minutes. I love to keep my desk clean. All tasks that appeared in my physical inbox were sorted and prioritized. The paperwork was then filed and the task scheduled for later that day, or later in the week, depending on how urgent it was. Consequently, my desk was always empty, save one folder, and a few maps related to the folder. Once one task was done, that folder and its maps were filed. A new folder and its maps were retrieved. One afternoon, my direct boss walks in, looks at my desk with its one folder and 2 maps, looks at my clean top filing cabinets, looks at my empty inbox, physical one you actually put papers and folders in, grunts, and walks out. 20 minutes later, my boss strides back into my office, drops 18 inches of folders and papers onto my inbox, states proudly and firmly, "OP, it doesn't look like you have enough to do. This should keep you busy." He smiled and strutted back to his cluttered office. It was busy work, 3 weeks of mind-numbing paperwork, nothing outside of my work description, just more like duplicate files, old contracts, unorganized paperwork, and/or outdated maps. In dealing with the dump's aftermath, I learned my lesson. While doing my actual job was important, it was equally important that hard work appear to be happening, so I could do my actual job. I started saving old files, old maps, and old legal documents. I rebound up papers that normally would have been recycled into legitimate-looking folders. I transformed my office into a duplicate of my boss's chaotic file and paper hellscape. My inbox always had papers and folders in it. Height and number would vary daily, never empty. I had folders piled on top of the file cabinets, folders in stacks on the floor, 24 of those white office boxes packed with files towering around my work area. I even had a map rack with old maps rolled up in it. My office looked utterly cluttered. I even took to walking everywhere with a steno pad, a file folder, and sometimes a map under my arm. Didn't matter where. Getting coffee, pad and file. Pooping, pad and file. Pointless meeting, pad and 2 files. Actual necessary productive meeting, pad, relevant file, relevant map. Every morning, right after scheduling my real work, I would shuffle the fake folders and paper around on my desk and work area. Move the boxes about every 2 weeks, but in all that visual chaos, I kept one area of my desk clean, where the real work happened. One day, my boss peeked into my office, the door bumping into a stack of 3 full white boxes placed behind it, preventing it from fully opening. A single file fell off the top, spilling its guts all over the floor. He looked around, paused at the mess he just made, then, sorry about that, what are you working on? I rattled off 3 of the highest priority properties on the current week's schedule, and the tasks for each. Alright, I'll give this to someone else, and walked on down the hall. I'd already completed those tasks. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, we have one from a user called Quiver Null. It says, "I always make myself look busier than I really am. Otherwise, I get to do other people's jobs too." Another commenter down below called Hoser said, "Take a tip from HR. Always, always, always make sure to tell everyone how busy you are and how little time you have while doing absolutely nothing. The appearance of work is more important than the work itself." Ah yes, the age-old art of strategic cluttering. It's like feng shui, but instead of balancing energy, you're balancing the illusion of being swamped with busy work. Sometimes, I guess, looking like you're drowning in paper is the only way to keep from drowning in, well, more paper. If you enjoy daily Reddit stories, I encourage you to follow and add us to the favorites on whichever podcasting platform you enjoy the most. And if you're watching and listening on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button and drop a like on the video. It really helps us out. I thank you for watching and listening. I hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you tomorrow.